I'm Michelle, and we're going to talk about how I and you can use mindfulness, compassion, and connection to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Hi, I'm Michelle, and I help parents who want to parent peacefully to foster strong relationships with their children and at times find it really hard. When my kids were small, I found myself so overwhelmed and burnt out that it was very difficult to parent calmly, peacefully, or playfully. I read all the books and I knew what I wanted to do, but I was stuck. And not only could I not always respond peacefully and calmly, but I also got caught in an awful yelling pattern, followed by overwhelming guilt and shame because yelling was the last thing that I wanted to do. So now let's talk about how I and you can use the science of mindfulness and self-compassion to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Today's topic is getting caught in a negative cycle with our kids and how we can step out of it. So lately, I've discovered that I have a bad habit of nagging and repeating myself and piling on. So, for example, in the morning when the kids are getting ready, and I've noticed this particularly with my son. It's time to like it's the last 5 minutes before they need to get out the door. So I say, okay, it's 5 minutes. You need to get your shoes on, socks, all these things. And he starts doing it. He goes in, he starts getting his computer, he starts getting his shoes and socks on. And then I remember, oh my gosh, did you do this? What about this? And I start like saying a whole bunch of other stuff. And he's like, stop. Or he says, okay, or something. But he's really like objecting to how I'm communicating and when I'm communicating with him. And it's like it's too much input for him. And he's already doing what I'm asking him to do. So I have to take a step back and be curious about why am I doing this? Why am I piling on? Why am I repeating myself? Another time that it happens is with flossing. I don't know about you all, but hate is a strong word. I really don't like bedtime routines, like the whole getting kids to brush their teeth, getting kids to floss. It's not fun. They don't want to do it. They don't want to go to bed. It's annoying and frustrating. So the other day, I was trying to explain how to floss, in my opinion, correctly, because it didn't look like he was flossing. It just looked like he had a floss stick in his mouth, which I guess is not nothing, but it's not flossing. And so I kept repeating myself, are you flossing? You got to floss like this and you got to do this. And he's like, I am, and luckily I did not hear that luckily that wasn't triggering to me. And I didn't hear it as like him being disrespectful or rude or anything like that. I heard it as, oh, why am I doing that? Why am I piling on? Why am I continuing to repeat myself? And with the flossing, it's pretty obvious. Actually, we have had recent dental appointments, which were very costly, very time consuming. I'm sure if any of you have had to get your kids have had to get dental work done, it's not a fun process, even if the dentist is amazing. And it's not fun in any regard. And so I think I'm extra like tense about this flossing thing because I don't want more cavities. I don't want more fillings. I don't want more time away from school. I don't want more, seeing my kids in pain, having to get dental work done. It's all stressful. So anyhow, I recognize the why and that my approach isn't helpful. So, Yeah, this is why we're doing this work of looking at ourselves in the pattern, right? So if I'm not noticing the pattern, what might have happened is I'm, kind of being annoying and he's trying to get ready for school and I say, "Hey, you got to also do this. Don't forget about this." And he says, "Stop," or "I am." And I say, "It is not okay to talk to me that way. That is not okay." And then he gets more upset or he shuts down, right? That would be us getting into the negative pattern. Or in the flossing instant, if I would have said, "It's not okay for you to talk to me that way, you're being disrespectful." So I would be reacting to his reaction. And then I would be doubling down. And then he would probably feel unfairly scolded, which would be true in that case, in my opinion. And we would be then off, right? He would either shut down, which would probably make me more angry. And then I would get more reactive, or he would, like be reactive out loud towards me. And then so then we would be off in this negative pattern, right? So noticing my part in the negative pattern is really helpful because it keeps it from just spiraling out of control. So first, that's what we have to do is notice ourselves. Um, and if we don't know that this is happening, again, we might double down. So I love Daniel Siegel's book, Parenting from the Inside Out. And that's kind of how I think about all of this work that I'm doing is what is happening with me? What can I do differently as a parent in this moment? How can I show up differently? So, in all of these incidents, you know what I'm trying to say. I want to get curious about. Okay, I noticed he had a big reaction, and no, I don't want him to have that big reaction. But what was I doing in these cases? It was me. I was doing something that was causing him to have a big reaction. There are lots of other times when it's not me. It's like something in their lives, or maybe our kids are stressed or overwhelmed, or something's happening with them. It's not us. But in these examples, it was me. It was something that I was doing that was triggering a behavior in them. Um, so let's think about this for yourself. Notice a difficult, tense moment with your kiddo, and then think about, okay, what did I do? Almost like a bird's eye view, right? What did I do? Like, what got this whole thing started? In this instance, like I'm explaining, it was me and how I was like reacting and showing up. But sometimes, like I said, it could be our kids. Maybe we're cool, we're calm, and they're all like, all of a sudden they have some kind of reactive behavior. So just notice, like, how is this thing getting started? How do we go from being okay to not okay? Then think about what is getting triggered for you. So you might feel like, like I said in those earlier, like if I'm getting triggered, I might have felt like, oh, they're being so rude or disrespectful. It's not okay for them to talk to me that way. So those are thoughts that might signal to me that I'm triggered about something that's happening in this interaction. Maybe it would be something like they're not listening to what I have to say. In these instances, it wasn't his behavior per se that was triggering me. It was thoughts and feelings that I was have about what was happening. So, like I said, with the flossing, the dental work, that was pretty obvious. With the other one, like the morning example, it was kind of like things that whatever I'm worried about and like trying to remind and pile on. I'm worried I'm going to forget to ask and remind later. I'm worried it's not going to get done. Right. So it's not exactly a trigger, but that kind of the source of why I was kind of like getting worked up. So ask yourself, what is happening for me right now? What's upsetting about this for me? Why am I worried about this? What is happening for me? Our eyeballs face out as emotionally focused therapist. mentor, she's creator of emotionally focused therapy, Sue Johnson, would say, our eyeballs face out. And I love that expression because that is what happens, right? We look at what other people are doing, what they're doing or not doing that we like or don't like. It's much harder to think about, what am I doing in this situation? What am I doing that's helping or not helping? What's happening for me? Why it's causing my reaction to be bigger? So I talk about this a lot in the course because as parents, we can be kind of hyper focused on our kids and what they're doing or not doing. And we do have to know about what's happening with them, of course, right? Sometimes it can be more about what's happening with them than what's happening with us. But we are part of the picture too. And so even if it's more about what's happening with our kiddo, there's probably stuff happening for us too. So it will still be beneficial to consider what is happening with me. This is why we spend a lot of time on this in the course and helping parents kind of reorient, at the very least, to look at the whole picture instead of just outward, just at our kiddo. So thinking about, what do I need to get through this? Okay, first, take your kiddo's perspective into account. In the situation, what might be happening with them? In this case, it was reasonable. I feel like it was reasonable for my son to be like, stop. Like, I think that as we can put ourselves in their shoes and think, has there ever been a time when someone was piling on when I was kind of already stressed or already trying to do something? And then I'm like, stop. Probably that happens a lot as parents, right? We're trying to make dinner and our kids are like, I need help with this. Can you do this? Like, no, it's too much, right? So putting yourself in your kids' shoes, what is happening with them? How might they be feeling about what I'm doing? How might they be feeling about what's happening in their world? This just helps us have more compassion and understanding for however our kids reacting in the moment. Because oftentimes we as adults are far from perfect. At least I know I am. And so I often remind myself, if I struggle, of course my kiddo is going to struggle. Like, they're not even halfway through their brain development. Of course they're going to struggle. This is developmentally appropriate for them to be struggling. And if I struggle as an adult with a fully developed brain, of course my kiddo is going to struggle. So in summary, I want you to just consider one of those sideways moments that you have with your kiddo. Just think about maybe the last one. Think about how they might have been feeling. Even if how they communicated, like I said, wasn't great, put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, have you ever experienced something similar? You might even ask yourself, how did your parents interact with you in a similar situation? And how was that for you? Was it helpful? Was it difficult? And then look at your own behavior. Was there anything that you were doing that wasn't great? And we want to try to do this with curiosity and without judgment. Because the thing is, there are good reasons why you're reacting the way that you're reacting. There's a good reason why you flew off the handle or got really intense or you're nagging or piling on. There's a good reason. We might not know what it is, but the more we know what it is, the more we can deal with that, whatever it is, something that we're worried about, something that we're, and both these examples, it was worried about more dental work, worried about forgetting to do something, my kid forgetting to do something, or me forgetting to remind them to do something. We can handle that in a different way, right? So ask ourselves why. There's always a good reason why. And you might be saying, well, Michelle, I don't have time to self-reflect. Like, who has time to do all this self-reflecting? And you're right. Of course, as parents, we are super busy. And as meditation teachers like to say, that taking the time to meditate actually gives us more time. Taking the time to self-reflect gives us more time because it saves us time and energy. It keeps that spiral thing that where we both, us and our kids are getting more and more reactive and things are getting more out of control, it keeps that from happening as often. It keeps it from getting as far out of control. And so it saves us time and energy. Even listening to this podcast, right? You're learning about yourself. This is you taking the time to self reflect and learn. So I hope that it saves you time and energy in some way or another this week. And I want to give you a play idea. So I haven't tried this, but I think I'm going to try this sometime soon. Before I forget, uh, I thought of it the other night with flossing because you can't do this with brushing teeth, but a flossing race. So I have decided that I need to have better habits about flossing and brushing my teeth at night. And why not do it with my kids while they're doing it? So I try to remember to bring my toothbrush upstairs and bring my floss upstairs. And I brush my teeth and floss so that they're seeing me do it. And then I thought, well, with flossing, you could actually you don't have to go slow like with teeth brushing, you could race. And so I thought about, racing with particularly with my one kiddo that doesn't like to do it and seeing who can floss the fastest, right? And even if they're not flossing perfectly, um, it's getting the job done and it's more than nothing, right? And it's more hopefully enjoyable than a fight about it every night. And it's not fun. So that is my play idea for this week. And I'd love to hear if you get to try it out. And maybe if you haven't your own creative idea, you can share it with us and I'll share it with the community so that we can kind of help each other out. Sometimes I get stuck with my creativity. So before you go, I have a free gift for you, the guided audio pause and regroup, AKA the rage break. And this is me actually guiding you through one of those moments when you're about to lose it and you're trying not to lose it and you need a moment to regroup. And I walk you through some steps that you can take to offload some of that angry energy and to shift your thoughts and regroup so you can rejoin your kids and come back to the situation and show up the way that you want to in those difficult parenting moments. You can find it hopefully in the links for the show notes. You can find it at compassionateheartmindfullife.com and check it out. A reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist, and this is not therapy and should not be a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thanks again for listening. Be well.